Welcome to the Naina Redhu experience.
Hey, thanks for tuning in again to another episode of the Naina Redhu experience, but you already knew that. Today I'm talking about an email that I got from a photographer, and it's an issue that I think I have thought about earlier, but I haven't honestly figured out what the correct answer is. I'll read out the email to you. They say there is this client of mine who I've done 2 shoots for. They were happy and called me again for a 3rd shoot. But unfortunately, I couldn't take it up due to date issues. Basically, the photographer wasn't available and they couldn't move it to another date. They requested me to refer them to someone else, which, by the way, is a whole different issue. Should one share references or other contacts with clients? Now, this basically means competitors. Like, should I, if a client calls me up and says that, hey, I want you to photograph this for me, and I say that, hey, I'm not available on that date, and then the client turns around and says, can you recommend someone else? How do you deal with that? The email goes on to say, anyway, since I had a good rapport with them, I referred someone I know who could deliver. The problem is that person did the assignment, but the client didn't like it. They are utterly disappointed with the work and asked me not to refer the person to anyone else because it would have an impact on my reputation. The person I referred is a good acquaintance and the clients are important to me. My dilemma is, 1, how do I share feedback with this acquaintance photographer? 2, should I be sharing it in the first place? Shouldn't the client do it directly? 3, the clients haven't released the payment yet and this person has told me they are chasing the client for the payment. 4, when the client told this feedback upfront, I felt so terrible that I offered to do the reshoot for them. Should I have done that purely for damage control? And 5, bottom line, should one ever refer another person, a replacement, given the risk involved? First of all, oh my God, thank you so much for writing to me and asking such specific questions. Most of the times the questions I get are, recently someone asked me on Twitter, what do you use for your portrait shoots? What is that question? What do you mean, what do you use? I use my arms, my feet, my eyes. I use equipment. I use a room, outdoors. What? Get specific, man or woman. So first of all, that's amazing that you have asked me such a specific question and given me context and background and details. So that always makes it easier for me to kind of understand what is going on and then actually answer the question. Instead of saying, what did you use? Ab mujhe kya pata kya use kiya tha? Like camera use kara tha, obviously, but like, what do you mean by that? Okay, anyway, sorry, I keep digressing. So what I told this photographer was, who by the way is a really decent photographer and I really like their work and we're friends on Facebook, we've never met. I have had instances where a client has called me up and said, hey, we worked together last year and this year we're doing the same thing again. So we would love to have you on board and, let's discuss and all. And I'm like, what dates? And they're like, those are the dates and I'm not available on those dates. So this happened with a client of mine whom I really enjoyed working with and I was totally devastated that I couldn't do it because I had already committed to someone else on those dates. And so I was like, well, I'm not available. And they were even willing to move the dates, 1 or 2 days forward or, prepone it. Unfortunately, my gig was for like a good 7 days and there was no way they could, push it for 7 days. Thankfully, the client did not turn around and say, okay, who do you recommend? Because I think that's a really dumb thing to do. Why would you call up a photographer and then they don't work out for some reason and then you say, अच्छा कोई और बताओ? मतलब you don't go to like what example can I use? You don't go to, for example, a particular car brand's showroom and look at their cars and don't like anything and then say, acha, who is your other competitor whose cars I can buy because yours though I didn't like. You wouldn't do that, right? It's just, I think it's disgusting. You wouldn't go to a chef and say, oh, your food I didn't like. Is there someone else I can hire? Like, ye kya bakwas hai yaar? Why do people think it's so easy to just call up a photographer, try to work with them? If it doesn't work out, then ask, acha, is there someone else who can do you? No, there isn't. Okay? Like, like it's not, I don't understand this. If you are I think as a client, if you are shopping on the basis of price is when you will ask that question. Because you're not wanting to work with the photographer because of their skill. You're just, अच्छा नाम सुना है, इनके साथ काम करना है, अच्छा ये तो पैसे तो बहुत ज़्यादा मांग रहे हैं, तो इन्हीं से पूछ लो कोई और है क्या? That's the mentality in most cases when a client turns around and asks a photographer. Now, I honestly am one of those people, I really don't have a problem recommending someone else, but I don't know anyone else who, does the kind of work that I do also has a blog, also is on social media. I don't know anyone else like that. I know it might sound a little arrogant, but I genuinely don't. So till date, the people that I've usually recommended to clients are, one is a cinematographer friend of mine who does amazing video work. And the other friend I have is a guy who does branding and graphic design. Because I used to do branding and graphic design earlier on. So I sometimes still get calls, people saying, do you know someone who can do this? Are you still doing it? Are you open to doing it? And I'm like, look, I don't do it anymore, but I know a really great person who does it. And I then connect them on email. And I do this for my cinematographer friend also. Now I know a lot of other cinematographers and a lot of other branding and graphic design people, but I don't recommend them because A, I probably don't like their work. B, I probably don't really know them. It's not just about the work. I need to know the person also. If the person is an asshole, why will I recommend an asshole to a client? And if I don't know that person that well, I have even an iota of a doubt, I will not recommend that person. Now, sometimes clients are like me, you just recommend to us, hum dekh lenge, So then I'm like, okay, in the email, I will give you a list of 10 people whose work is half decent. And I will say, these are the people that I know of, but I take no responsibility on how it will turn out. It is entirely up to you. Here is how you can get in touch with them. But a more personalized introduction is when I say that, oh, hey, this is my friend Jatin. He's a cinematographer. This is the client. Hey, this client, I've worked with this client here. And hey, I've worked with this cinematographer here earlier. I love their work. I can vouch for it personally. Please hire them. They're wonderful. That is a different level of introduction. So if it's just some acquaintance and you have introduced them to a client, first of all, I wouldn't have done that. If someone does ask you, oh, okay, you are not available. Is there someone else we can work with? I'll be like, I don't know. Dhoond lo. Like, you can put a status on Twitter or Facebook and ask for a photographer. I'm sure you'll get hundreds of recommendations. Then sit and look and choose. Why are you transferring that responsibility onto me? It's not my fucking job, yeah. I'm not sitting here as a pimp for other photographers. I got my own fucking business to run. What is this nonsense? अच्छा ठीक है चलो अभी तुमने कर दिया recommend क्योंकि तुम्हें बुरा लग रहा था that oh I'm not available so somebody else should at least get it done with the client. Okay ठीक है recommend कर दिया. Now that other person has fucked it up for some reason, or maybe they haven't even fucked up but the client is an asshole. I don't know. Like with me a client might be amazing, but with someone else how the relationship pans out, how do I know? Similarly with with me a client might have been a complete asshole. It didn't work out. We had a fight or whatever. But with someone else it might have been wonderful. So if I go and tell that person कि अरे वो client तो बकवास है, they'll be like, what are you saying? I had a great experience with them. You can't judge people on the basis of what a third party tells you or even a one-time experience with your own self. Especially professionally. When there are 50 people involved in decision making, you never know why an assignment didn't work out. You don't know that. Budgets didn't work out, somebody on the team didn't like you, somebody on the team was having a bad day. You never know what the whole deal is. You can't say, oh, that client or that photographer is useless. You never know what's going on. So abhi kya hua hai usme, you don't know the details. Secondly, or thirdly or fourthly, whatever, sorry, I'm not keeping track of the points. That other person did not take any advance payment. Now they're chasing the client. So, well, and of course I had a conversation with this photographer on the phone and I tried to get more context on what the problem was, and they said that the other acquaintance photographer should have sorted out all the details of the assignment and payment etc before they shot anything, which is true. Yeah, you have a fucking contract, use it. If you don't have one, get one. Use the internet, search for photography contract. You will find bazillions of templates that people like me have shared for free, and then make your own and then ask your lawyer friend कि अरे ये इंडिया में चलेगा कि नहीं चलेगा. Do that. बिना contract के how can you go and shoot and then you're saying I'm chasing payments on the basis of what? You have no fucking contract. Like, it blows my mind even now in 2017 when people say, अरे मेरे को पेमेंट नहीं मिल रहा है, तो क्यों कर रहे हो फिर काम? पेमेंट नहीं मिल रहा है तो काम क्यों किया? मेरा काम बहुत बकवास है तो काम ही मत करो फिर. Don't get into a fucking contract or work situation in any case. People call me up and say, oh, you charge 100% advance, how can we do it? Hey, you just charge it, yeah? No, but what if you are not confident in your work and your deliverables, then you probably can't charge 100% advance. So then that means where is the area where you need to work? You need to build your own skills. You need to build your own portfolio before you can ask a client for 100% advance. Simple. So this, okay, you've recommended someone, they fucked it up, and then you offered to do it for the client for free. What nonsense, man. I have had clients who have, not too many examples, I would wish there were more, then I could show off more. But I have had situations where a client had come and asked me for some work, and it didn't work out. Usually it doesn't work out because of budgets. And then they went and worked with someone else. And then 3 months later, they come back to me and say that, hey, you know what? That thing still hasn't happened. We want you to do this for us. And, how much do you charge? So it's not that they come back to you and then you just say, I will do it because the other photographer wasn't good enough. You charge, and generally you charge more because 3 months ke baad your prices have probably gone up. Just because at that particular point in time you had quoted a particular rate doesn't mean it stays the same. So this is ridiculous. Why are you offering to do work for free because the client and the other photographer couldn't manage their fucking relationship? अब हो गया ना, they couldn't delay it, तो गंदा photography करवा लिया. पर अभी तुमसे करवा रहे हैं तो date delay हो गई ना. They could have waited for you for a fucking week. No? So this is all very, you build a relationship with a client or with another working party and then you don't want to fuck it up, so you offer to do all this weird shit. No. A business relationship is only strong if there is trust on both sides. If the client trusts you to deliver great work, and if you trust the client to take care of you, pay you on time, make the space available to you, be nice to you, treat you like a decent human being, then it's, that's how you both grow well together. Now you might say, but what is the harm in recommending another photographer? Now, okay, this is not wedding photography, okay? When I started off, I was part of that group of, I think, 5-10 people who were the first few people who started what was called candid wedding photography some 10 years ago. At that time, I've had both Joseph Radhik and Ramit Batra. They have both referred clients to me. And they didn't take any commission. They didn't, say कि इसमें हमारा ये cut है. They basically just referred that client onto me because they were not available on those dates, right? So they were like, oh, hey, you can talk to Naina and she's also a photographer, and I shared my work with them. And that client paid me directly. They didn't say कि, oh, हम commission लेंगे या जो भी, and or we don't recommend other photographers. उस time they were only like 5 to 10 of us. Who else was the work going to go to? And that industry is different. Like Joe now, for example, has a large team of people. So if he's not available, someone else is. You know what I mean? So it's not, he no longer has to like recommend work to other people, refer work to other people. So that industry is a little different because you're all in the same thing together. But here in this case, this is not same wedding photography. Yeah. This is like more commercial kind of photography. So it's like also the client expects a certain kind of quality. In those days, they literally were like 5-10 of us. और जाओगे कहाँ? Now it's like, a lot of people are doing wedding photography. So that market is in a glut as far as I'm concerned, which is why 3 years ago, I completely quit it. Now it's like clients call up and say, oh, we really like what you did for this client. We want like really amazing photos. We want to hire you. So I give them my code. Doesn't work out. Acha, is there someone else who can do the same for cheaper? What the fuck? No, there isn't. And agar hai to then that is probably, I do know of photographers who've done similar work for clients where I've charged like 1.5 lakhs and that poor sod has charged like 10,000 bucks. And their photos aren't half bad. You need to know the worth of your work. Anyway, again, I'm totally digressing. So I honestly don't know. I mean, I feel really bad saying that I will never recommend any other photographer to a client if I'm not available. But at the same time, that's not my job. It's not ki, I need to have this list of 10 people that in case I'm not available, I will recommend them to you. I don't have that list. Not because I don't want to, I genuinely don't know really awesome photographers who do the kind of work that I do. You can't have everything. You can't have कि अच्छा उसका blog भी होना चाहिए और social media भी होना चाहिए. I'll recommend photographers to you, but they might not have a social media presence. Or the ones that do have a social media presence might not be really good photographers. So I genuinely don't sit around looking at other photographers' work and saying, अरे हाँ इसको मैं list में डाल लेती हूँ. That's not my job. And even if you're a friend of mine, you come to me and say, oh, can you recommend a photographer? I am a fucking photographer. Arey, but Naina, you are so expensive. So why are you asking me? You already know all this, yeah? So I genuinely don't know what the answer to this one is. I am friends with a lot of other photographers. They do different kind of work than I do. And I mean, even if I wanted to recommend them to clients, I mean, I have actually recommended other photographers to clients, but I always preface it with, look, this is between you and the photographer, please take it from here. And sometimes, of course, clients have had great experiences working with other photographers and all, but as a business entity, I don't think it's my responsibility to, sit around making a list and saying, अरे इसके साथ काम कर लो. I'm like, नहीं, मेरे साथ काम करो. क्यों करना है उसके साथ काम डिले करो अपना इवेंट 5 और दिन उसके बाद I will shoot it for you. So how do you guys deal with it? I mean, I know there are some photographers who have made like a group. I'm not talking about a Facebook group, like they're on a group and they recommend work to each other when one person is not available, they'll send work to the other one and things like that. But I'm not part of any such groups and I'm not sure I want to be because it just too many people, it creates a lot of politics and then I'm not being hired on the basis just of my work, right? It's also somebody recommended that, Naina's work is nice. So that's how it works, word of mouth. That group thing, it becomes more like I'm not available, so work with this one only because they're part of that group and they've referred work to you earlier. So it becomes more like a favoritism kind of thing. But I honestly don't know what the answer to this is. And since I got the email about a week ago, I've been thinking about it. Even though I had a conversation with that photographer and they kind of figured out what they would do next, I genuinely don't know what the answer to this kind of an issue is. So if you have done something like this in the past and how do you deal with it, I'd love to know. And do share your experiences, or I mean, if you guys have blogged about it earlier, or if you've read someone else dealing about, with stuff like this, I'd love to read and expand my perspective. Cool, that is what today was about. So it was a bit of a more photographer-centric thing, but I think this problem applies to pretty much any independent entrepreneur's, use case, whether you're a photographer or a graphic designer or a musician or a chef. I'd love to know more. And I really, really appreciate it when anyone sends me an email asking me questions because they are trusting me to provide some kind of answers, at least some kind of discussion forward. So that's pretty cool. And thanks for listening. Bye.